Hello, everyone. Welcome to Curious K podcast, and Happy New Year to you. And I want to wish everyone a great 2022. My name is Kolakbo, and I'm your host. And I want to say a big thank you to everyone that is listening to the show across the world. Thank you for the love. Thank you for the support. And if you're joining us for the first time, the Curious K podcast is a show where I meet with amazing startup founders, ecosystem builders, policymakers, VCs, angel investors, and everyone working to make entrepreneurship thrive on the African continent. And today on the show, we are featuring Ayo Dawodu, who is the founder and CEO of Loystar. And if you don't know, Loystar is a retail and loyalty platform designed to help micro, small, and medium businesses sell and and drive repeat sales in their businesses. And the goal is simple, so that businesses will become more profitable. Uh, and I read something very interesting on Loystar website, which is a quote by Peter Drucker. It says, "The purpose of business is to create and keep a customer." And I find that very, very insightful. Hayo, thank you very much for joining us today on Curious K podcast.
Thank you, Kolapo. It's a pleasure.
So, how are you doing today, Hayo? And Happy New Year to you, of course.
Yes, Happy New Year to you as well. I'm doing fine. I mean, the year started, so work has started. Um, we're beginning to ramp up. So, yeah, so far, so good.
Amazing, amazing. So I just want to go back memory lane. I know you've been in the tech ecosystem in Nigeria for a while now, and what the earliest memory I can have is the Lean Startup. Arguably, I think that was the first Lean Startup workshop organized in Lagos then. And
Yeah.
I actually participated in that Lean Startup workshop, and it was mind blowing. So let's just go back and start from that point. As part of an ecosystem player, I mean, what led you to hosting or organizing a workshop or a lean startup workshop for startups? Were you building startup, or how did that happen?
Okay. I mean, that's a good question, and that take me back to I think this happened in 2014. It's
Yes,
actually
yes,
it's,
that,
a- it's actually a good, you know, um, it's a good way for me to cast my mind back and think about what happened during that period. So I started reading the Lean Startup book by Ries. I think I started it during my, postgraduate studies, and I just found it very interesting in terms of how to launch innovation and things like that. And coupled with Steve Blank's Epiphany book, so those two books sort of, got me curious. And coincidentally, there was a company or there was a startup as well, called the Lean Startup Machine based in the US. And their model was to sort of provide a platform to help other startup founders launch and validate their ideas very quickly. Because what was common or what's still common today is that, people have ideas and then they have, lots of assumption about their ideas. And then, they're very excited about it. They go on to build it if they're developers, or they go on to hire, engineers if they cannot develop it themselves. And at months, 12 months down the line, they realize that, oh, okay, this is not working. Basically, they've built on false assumption. But this workshop, sought to sort of help founders very quickly and in as low as 3 days figure out whether or not your idea was going to succeed, right? And so it was very exciting for me. I got involved with those guys in the US, and they were looking to scale into Africa. And at the time, they had not had any workshop in Africa. So I unlocked Lagos, and with the help of some other players within the ecosystem, I remember Tommy Davis was very helpful. We launched that workshop. We basically held it for 3 days, and it was a success, as you can tell. Yeah, at that time I'd not started building a startup, but it was a good way to get into that, you know, startup space.
Amazing. Yeah. So I think that's still relevant to today. I mean, the essence of people validating their idea. People say, I mean, we have quotes that ideas a dime a dozen, right?
Yeah,
I mean, the most important thing is execution. So people still spend a lot of money uh, on ideas that maybe won't work, but with the knowledge of the lean startup methodology, that would save them a lot of money. So, how do you think maybe, I mean, this knowledge can be spread within the ecosystem, and people building or trying to build startup can get a glimpse or understand this concept?
yeah. So I think since the days of the lean startup, as it were, the concept has sort of evolved. Even though the fundamental is the same, but you know, as you tell, as time passes, you get smarter about these things, and then you can improve the process. And so the concept is still fundamental to talking to your customers, right? Not just building from your own assumptions, talking to your customers, which is like customer development, and of course, rapid, prototyping or rapid development. So I remember a quote from that book. It says, the fastest customer wins. Sorry, the fastest founder wins, right? It's not about how much money you have, but how fast you can learn, from your customers. And that still applies today, right? If you have an idea, you want to be fast about validating it, and that just involves, talking to your customers and then as fast as possible launching an MVP and then taking the feedback from that MVP, iterating, and then the loop continues that way. So you don't want to, again, there are nuances to these things, right? It depends on your industry. So you might not be able to apply this model in every aspect. For example, in health tech, that's a very regulated space. You want to be sure that things are, working. I was just looking at this whole scandal about Elizabeth Holmes and Theranos.
Yeah,
So such industries might not exactly apply, but there are some things you can still pick out anyway. But the whole point of everything at the end of the day is to ensure that you can, make something that your customers want, and that comes from you, getting very close to them, speaking to them, understanding a day in their life and those things, right? So it's still very, very relevant today.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I think I remembered I participated in that workshop. I was building an audiobook company at that point, talking books. It was interesting because at that point the solution was for students in the universities, right?
Yes.
Uh, we wanted students to learn to read by listening.
Okay.
That was what we thought was like the best solution. But during the workshop, during the Lean Startup workshop, after speaking with students in Unilag, Yabatech, realized students would actually prefer videos. I mean, having that
That's interesting.
conversation, we learned students wanted video, not just audio. Video would be a better mode for them to learn. So, I mean, I think it's, but at a point, we had the pivot where we focused on professionals, right?
Okay.
Because for us, it was hard to get even lecturers to give us their notes or to convert some of their notes to video content and all that. A lot of bureaucracies. But
Right.
we later figured out, okay, why not just focus on books, business books, professional books, where professionals, young professionals that understand
Right.
the value of knowledge. They want to learn. They're busy. They're stuck in traffic. I mean, what other way can they consume, this information? And the audio book was just spot on for that. But the key lessons while we were trying to build something for students in the university was trying to understand. We learned that video was just the go-to mode of
Hmm.
content, and we were
Yeah.
busy building audio, and that was one of the key values in uh
Yeah.
I can still hold on to during the workshop. And now that I see startups, edtech startups trying to build video content for even secondary school students, using animation, I'm just like, this is the way to go.
Yeah.
At the point when I was trying to build something in audio, the customers were saying video, video.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's just very powerful how the lean startup concept is, and I hope people building or trying to learn or trying to start to build startups understand the importance of quickly validating,
Yeah.
their ideas. There is a lot of lesson that can be learned from just making sure you learn and you listen to your customers, because as founders, I know it's what you want to build that it's in your mind. Your
Exactly.
baby, your idea is like Eureka. So you're like, no, I, I don't want to change this.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Yeah. So Hayo, so let's talk about a Loystar. All right.
Okay.
So by the time you organized this Lean Startup workshop, uh, what were you doing at that point, and what led to starting or establishing Loystar as a company?
Okay. So if I remember correctly, or of which I do, the idea for Loystar, I had that idea before that workshop, but I had not started executing on it.
Nice.
So it was just in my head because this was after my postgraduate, and the concept for idea came during my postgraduate studies. But I didn't really act on it, even though I did some work, you know, in terms of technical work. But in terms of commercializing it, nothing had been done at that time. And then right after the workshop, I actually went to MEST in Ghana. So I spent 2 years in Ghana at the MEST program. So it was there I sort of fleshed it out a bit, and that's how it got started. But definitely I had built out the technical part of it. So the mobile app that just did a basic loyalty program. I had started working on that, and then the MEST environment at the time just gave me further leverage to sort of validate more of the assumptions, and then eventually we launched.
All right. So can you tell us about how the platform evolved,
Okay.
or did you get into Mest? Because you said you had the idea before going to Mest. So was the application to Mest based on Loyster idea?
Absolutely not. As a matter of fact, if you understand how the MEST program worked, so it was basically a 2 year software entrepreneurship course, and it was a very broad course where you're taught communications, programming, and business, right? Those three concepts, but you have different modules for it. And at the end of each milestone, you have something they call capstone project, where you come up with an idea, you try to validate it and launch it, within a short period. So you sort of go through the startup cycle, the early stage of the startup cycle, multiple times, just to give you a sense of how to, handle, juggle product development, launching, go to market, and things like that. So, I mean, the first idea wasn't even related to Loystar. If I remember correctly, it was around, I think, Venue Marketplace. So I once launched a company called Venue99.com, and it was a venue marketplace where if you wanted a meeting space, or you wanted an event hall, or you needed a co-working space, we sort of created a marketplace. So think of it as Airbnb, but not for homes, but other kind of spaces, right? And I was very excited about this idea. My team and I, we signed up venues in Ghana, in Lagos. But eventually, as someone who is very software oriented, I quickly discovered that this is a very operations and offline business. And for you to do a very good job at the time, you would need to be very present on offline, right? So, because imagine you wanted to book an event hall, for example, and in Nigeria today, that might run into millions. Nobody's going to pay, a million naira or anything close to that online, right? They want to see, they want to engage you physically, right? So it was going to be difficult to be involved in that transaction, even though we had a way around that actually, because we had a I would say quite a brilliant idea on how to navigate that. But just the fact that you had to sign up, those venues offline, and of course deal with, educating the venue owners on how to use and just digital technology generally, it was sort of not an encouragement. But anyway, we had a good run with that. I know we signed up quite a number, and then we moved on to another idea that was focused more on arts and crafts. Again, I think it was a marketplace. So connecting people, art lovers, with those that made, you know, handmade crafts. So it could be artists, it could be sculptors, and all those kind of people. But again, that was just for the purpose of projects. It wasn't really an exciting project. Then I tried launching Loystar in one of the capstone. As the spin on it then was quite different from what it is now. But we had a short time to sort of work on the project, and then eventually we had to now choose. Okay, out of all these three projects, which one seems more viable, and that's how we went on with Loystar, and then moved on from there.
Amazing. Yeah. So can you just, in your words, tell us what Loystar, the problem you're trying to solve with Loystar, and what has been the growth like since you launched? And I also remember you mentioned having technical background even while doing MEST. And so was this solution built in house from the get go? Okay, if you can talk about that as well.
Yeah, I'll start with your last question. So it was definitely built in house. I know I worked on the first version of the product myself, but today I know we have engineers that work on it. So it's 100% owned and built in house. So to describe Loystar as it is today, we call ourselves a digital commerce and loyalty platform. And essentially, our goal is to ensure that merchants are able to retain their customers. Now, if you're familiar with, today, trying to acquire customers, doing marketing and all of that, it's pretty expensive, right? And then if you say you acquire a customer for maybe on a unit level, $10 per customer, right? You want to ensure that you're able to capture value, at least capture that $10 value, and maybe three times that for you to call yourself a profitable venture, right?
Yeah.
So we're just trying to position, businesses in that kind of framework by giving them the tools to sort of retain their customers and ensure that they are running profitable business. So it's very big. We are very big on driving repeat sales. But however, we also have other tools that sort of help you in digitizing your process. So we have our point of sale that sort of help you keep track of your sales, inventory, invoice, receipts, CRM, and all of these rights on the loyalty platform, right? So you have an end-to-end platform that takes care of pre-sales, or maybe not pre-sales, like the sales process and then after sales. So that's what Loystar is today. But we definitely did not start at where we are today. We started as just a loyalty-only platform. So what the app did in the early days was very, very simple. You are a merchant, you want to run a loyalty program, you go on Loystar, and in like 30 seconds, you can set up a loyalty program. We asked you three simple questions. What's the spending target you want your customers to reach for you to give them a reward? You enter a figure. We ask you what the reward is. You enter it, and then you just give your program a name. And that was it. Everything was powered via SMS. It was a very simple tool, and it was quite impactful. I remember the early merchants then really liked how simple it was and how you just utilized the customer's phone number. So the customer didn't need to download any app or sign up anywhere. They just had to supply a phone number. So yeah.
Sounds really interesting. So, who were the early adopters of the product? Was it like supermarket, or what are like your core merchants? Using. I know a lot of businesses need to build loyalty with their customers, even B2B businesses. But you
Yeah.
building or launching out these businesses, which industry was like very key for you to quickly grow into?
Yeah. So the very first customer number one, I remember was a restaurant that was close by, you know, and if I it was it's an um interesting story in terms of how they became a customer. At that time, when they paid for the product wasn't ready. So what they essentially paid for was We did a booklet as our MVP, and we made like a table in the booklet where we had, you could write the customer's name and their number, and then at the end of the week we'll collect the booklet and just send, a simple text messages to those customers that they should come for happy hour on Fridays, right? And the client really liked how that drove traffic, you know, and then based on that, we just eventually gave him an app to do this himself, and then from there, sort of iterated on and on. So, food and beverage was the first industry we explored, followed by fashion, followed by beauty. So, those three were the top industries we sort of positioned for. But today, we cut across. The product is very horizontal. So, you find we're in oil and gas, we are in um, laundry, food and beverage, of course, and even health. So today I can tell you, I mean, there's someone who's trying to launch a health insurance scheme is looking to tie in some loyalty concept into it. So it's quite an horizontal product and can plug into multiple industry.
Absolutely. And what about funding? How was that like? I understand that you built this in house in the early days you started, but what was scale like for you growing? I mean, in terms of funding, were you able to raise some funding? And how easy was the process for you? Like,
Yeah. So most of our funding has been from our customers, and I would say some grants here and there. We definitely have had discussions with investors. Um, as a matter of fact, in the early days, we did get an offer for a seed. I think it was a seed round then, a $50 investment, and then a 10K. That was in 2016, I believe. But those terms didn't come at a very good, you know, a good. The deal wasn't quite the best for us at that time, so we didn't go with that. But today we've received grant investment and mostly funding from our customers, and we've had conversations around mergers and acquisitions, several of those. So we're in a good spot anyway.
great, great. So, I mean, the best way a business can fund itself is when customers pay, right?
Yeah,
And I think that's the approach that you're using. So your growth has been organic from day one
yeah,
and self-funded, but the customers are really paying for the product because they get value
yeah,
in the product.
yeah,
Nice. So what are your plans for the future? All right. I mean, right now you've been running Loystar for 3 4 years, if I'm right, or more
yeah,
than that. You can give us a specific timeline. So where do you see Loystar in the nearest future, or in another 4 years?
yeah. So I mean, what we built is more of a product that will be able to sustain itself. So it's been the way we've evolved over the years now. It's been the product has been designed in such a way that the technology itself can be sold or can be deployed without we having to run it. So we've seen people that said, "Oh, I love your technology. Can you give it to me? You know, as a white label, and then I take care of all of the marketing and stuff like that." So we see more of that happening in the future. Um, even so, we have like complementary products. For example, we have a product called U Rewards, which is our customer-facing platform that also leverages on the Loystar technology, right? So we as a brand can decide to spin off, you know, another product, as it were, and use the Loystar technology. Another brand somewhere can decide to, launch their own loyalty scheme, leveraging on Loystar. And you might not know it's Loystar, right? So that's sort of our growth plans. Um, Looking at the next 2 3 years, that's our sort of path to scale. It's something we've tried in this last year, and it seems to be the most efficient way to scale without having to, spend on marketing and things like that.
All right, great. So it sounds interesting. And I would also like to talk about adoption, right? What can you say about the adoption of this technology? Because I still see a lot of opportunity in terms of businesses that need to still adopt uh, a loyalty system to bring back their customers. I mean, there is a supermarket in the neighborhood where I live. I mean, uh, I buy most of my groceries from this supermarket, but I mean, they still don't have the kind of solution like this in the system. And if I don't even show up for weeks, they don't know. So
Yeah.
I mean, I would just like to know in terms of your thoughts, what's the adoption like at supermarkets or retail businesses, or drinks and beverages? Are they willing to cling on to this solution? Is this something that they are looking forward to? Is it expensive for them? What has been the story like, based on since the time you've been running Loystar?
Yeah. So it's a mix, right? Especially depending on the level or the stage of the business. So what we find is that from micro to small businesses. So those are businesses that might have maybe 1 to 10 employees, maybe one location, or maybe just a solo business owner. Um, they might not. What they want is even new customers in the first place. Before you can drive repeat sales or get your customers to come back, you must first acquire those customers. So with them, it's more of, okay, how can I first of all even digitize my process, and that's where our point of sale comes to play, right? So you find our point of sale tool being used by such businesses, food and beverages, smoothie, cafes, such businesses. So the loyalty side doesn't as much, even though for some merchants it does, if they know how to like apply it to their business. But majority of them just use Loystar for the record keeping aspect, inventory and things like that. Now, when we move over to like the medium to bigger businesses, um, then those ones see the need to like drive repeat sales across their customer base, right? So you see them, happy to and set up their scheme and begin to run it. So it's a mix, right, depending on the stage of the business. But how we are approaching it again, like I said, is um, engaging with partners directly, and these partners are in turn the ones that are going to sell it to like the end user, right? So if a supermarket wants to adopt a loyalty program, they'll probably will hear of Loystar from their IT procurement officer, whoever is handling their IT, right? So that's sort of our path to serving those kind of customers.
So since you've been running Loystar, what can you say has been like one of the biggest challenges that you faced?
Uh, I think the biggest challenge would be, so it varies. At the time, we struggled with just getting the right people on board. Um, so I know at the time we had someone that was taking care of our customer support and customer success, and but the person just stayed on for like 3 months until they found like another opportunity and left. And for a long time, we didn't find the right fit. But now that we have the right fit, that side is kind of stable. So I would say finding people to sort of come on board was one of the challenges, but it's not today. It's not more. It's not like the main challenge that we experience today. The challenge would be actually just scaling the product, scaling the products, just like reaching more merchants, having more signups on board, and then having the capacity to serve them like efficiently. That's what I'm thinking about these days.
Do you worry about competitors?
Well, not so much. Not so much. I So it's still very early days, right? And when you look at the space, you see everyone trying to sort of do something, but with a different approach. And at the end of the day, you know, it all boils down to how much you're spending and how much you're making, right? So I always like to think that we are very capital efficient. Now we can do much more with less. So if you know, imagine we have the same level of resources that our competitors have, we would do way much more, right? And then I can say that like we'll do way much more than what they are doing. Um, just for the fact that we've been able to figure out a very efficient model, right? So I have a very lean small team, and given the fact that we've not been funded, the kind of clients that use our products, I mean, you can think from the micro, small business in Gambia, that sells beauty products and runs a spa, to like a company with 19 locations across Nigeria, or even a government parastatal, right? We just with just the resources that we have. So it doesn't get better than that. You're serving government, serving businesses, serving you know mid-tier businesses, and once you have that figured out, you sort of have a working model and you can scale from there. So I'm really proud of how where we are, despite the resources that we have.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, Ayo. Uh, and I still believe there are a lot of businesses that still need to understand the benefits of creating a loyalty programs for their customers. All right, because businesses in Nigeria, Africa, mostly don't really have that culture or that excellent culture of serving their customers. I mean, you go to some places, they be like, I mean, do you have change? If you don't have change, go. There's still
Yeah,
businesses with cultures like that. I mean,
yeah,
so I mean, hopefully with your platform, I believe businesses or even local businesses
yeah.
will understand the importance of building customer loyalty, and I believe Loystar will be there to fill in the gap. Thank you very much, Ayo, for sharing all that. So
Mm.
as we round up, is there anything you would like to tell us?
So yeah, definitely. I mean, for the most part, we've been focused more on you know products typed businesses. So again, just to give a sense, right? We've from just the loyalty aspect. I know what we started out with was a loyalty program, and it's still a big part of what we do. So we can think of our product as two pronged, right? There's the loyalty side where we've done a very good job. We have four different loyalty models: simple points, stamp, multi-level loyalty, and instant rewards. And so depending on the kind of scheme you want to run, you have something that Loystar can offer you. And then on the other side, we have a tool that serves as a point of sale that you can use to track your inventory, track your sales, track your customers, send invoices, send receipts, um, do automated marketing, so birthday messages, SMS broadcast, segmenting your customers into groups so you can target your marketing. Um, so that's how like the two sides of the product. But in the coming months, we'll be adding more functionality to serve service type businesses. So even though we currently have some of those kind of businesses currently using the platform, it's not well optimized for them because there's a gap in scheduling and then bookings. So think of like a spa, right? So some of these spas want their customers to book a session, and you just walking in might not be the optimal experience they want. So they need a tool that can sort of manage that aspect, and then of course tie it back to loyalty. So we are working on that, and that will be available in like 4 to 6 weeks. You can also just expect a wide scale loyalty scheme. It might not be labeled Loystar or being pushed by Loystar, but you can expect that Loystar is powering it. Something more for the grassroots. What else? Yeah, I mean, we're always innovating, so you can expect to always find something new once you check back, 3 months, 6 months, and so on and so forth.
All right. Yeah, thank you, Hayo, for sharing all that. And thank you for taking out the time to be on Curious K podcast.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right. Yeah, thank you, everyone, for listening. That is Ayo Dawodu of Loystar. I hope you enjoyed this episode and looking forward to seeing you next time. Bye bye.